All right, you're getting a bonus video. You didn't know you were getting a bonus video. Neither did I. This is a few days after I recorded the rest of the videos in this set, and I just realized we never talked about GitHub, and so I just wanted to record a quick video going over how we get this information up to GitHub. Obviously, this is an important thing. Using source control is critical in the world of programming to both the remote repository that allows you to undo changes on your own machine and fix errors and have a history of how the code has changed, but also on the remote repository with the rest of your team. We want to take advantage of all these benefits that come from source control, and so we want to get our project up to source control. So I've got both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code open, and we really could do this in either one. I'm going to do it in Visual Studio Code, but we could just as easily do it in Visual Studio or Writer, whichever program you're using. And so we haven't added the source control yet, and so what we've done before is we've gone to source control, we've clicked initialize repository, we've set up the repository, and then we've published to GitHub. And that's the way we could totally do it that way if we wanted to. But I'm feeling kind of, I don't know what the word is, I'm feeling kind of funny today. I'm feeling like, hey, we've never done it through terminal yet. I'm feeling like we want to do it a different way. And from industry, people who work in industry that I've talked with, the typical way to work with GitHub is at the terminal. It's really weird for them to try and use the GUI. They prefer the terminal because once you know the commands, it's much quicker and easier just to type those in at the terminal. And so I want to show you how to do that, even though it'll take a little longer than just pressing these buttons here. I think it'll be a good little exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first, we can just check, you can run a git status anytime just to see what the status is. We currently don't have any git repositories set up. So the very first thing I'm going to do is do a git init. Now this is going to initialize a local repository for my code. So this is on my local machine. All these files sitting out here waiting to go to the repository on my local machine. And so that sets up the local repository. All right, now I can commit to the local repository by running a commit command. But before I do that, I'm going to set up my remote repository. So I'm going to go to github.com, log in, and then I want to set up a new repository. And I'm going to call this one Full Stack Fun, which is the same name as the project. I'm going to make it public in my case, and then we're going to create this repository, which will give us this link that we can use. So I'm going to copy this link and then back to Visual Studio Code. So let's go in and we're going to run a command to set up the remote connection. So we say git remote add, and then the origin is going to be this code that we just copied, this link that we just copied up to that repository. And so I can say git remote add origin, and then whatever that link is, enter, and that will add that will tell my computer that the remote location is this link that we're sending to. To verify that it's set, I can say git remote v. Now the git status we don't normally need to do. Oh wow. Careful with your typos. I'm glad that wasn't a real command. That typo could have been critical. Git remote -v. Okay, and it goes and checks and says, yes, I can see that. Okay, good. So really, if we knew that we were connected, we would just need to run this git init command and then the git remote add origin command so that the program knows where that is. And then once I've done that, I can stage the files to be committed. So I can say git add period. Period says all files. Now if I had a specific file I wanted to stage to be committed, then I could type in the name of the specific file. Add period is going to do all of them. So it tells me all these files are now staged to commit. And then just like we would normally type in a message here and then press the commit button, we can do it the command line by saying git commit -m. That -m stands for message, and then we can put there whatever we would normally put in this box. I'll just put, this is my initial commit, and then enter. That commits all the files again to the local repository on the local machine, separate from these files, which are your project files. So now those files are committed to the local repository, but I want to get them up to GitHub. I can do that by just saying git push and then -u origin, and in our case our origin is the master. So git push -u origin master. If it was a different branch you were trying to push to, you would say origin different branch. Okay, so we come in, we say origin, and in our case origin master, run that command, and that's going to go push all these changes up to GitHub. And so now if I go look on GitHub, if I look in my full stack fun repository, then I can see those files and folders from this project because they're now pushed up to GitHub. And so a lot of people prefer this method because once you have it set up, then you're just running that, git add to stage those files for changes, and then you say git commit with whatever the message is, and then git push. You can do these really fast at the terminal, faster than even just clicking on the buttons in the GUI. I had a buddy I worked with. His name's Alec. I'm going to shout out to Alec in this video. When I worked with him at this company, MarketStar, he had a goal of not touching the mouse as much as possible. He stayed on the keyboard, so he learned all the shortcuts and commands, and he could fly because going to the mouse and then scrolling to the place you want and clicking on the button is usually pretty slow. So a lot of people prefer staying on the keyboard when possible as they're programming. All right, so that's how we get it set up in Visual Studio Code. We can see we're connected to that repository here. Now, how do we get it set up in Visual Studio? And the answer is, if I close out and come back in to this project, the answer is, I don't have to do a dang thing. We're already connected because we set up the file structure in a way that we had this overarching project name, and then in there we had backend and front end. And so this is going to make it a lot easier, not just on GitHub, but when we deploy this app, it's going to make it a lot easier to deploy as well. And so this setup that I had you do with building the project folder and then putting in there the backend and the front end folders, and that way you can see here there's a GitHub folder now set up that is going to apply to the entire group. And so that's the advantage of setting it up that way. Makes our lives a lot easier. And so that's how we get our project up to GitHub with both the front end and the back end. And we can now work from there on this big project I mentioned that we're going to go for now. A number of series of videos just working on the same project and updating. And so I'll try to be good, which I have not been in these videos to this point, about along the way committing and pushing and trying to model how we would typically want to do it, working out in real life, in industry. And with that, that's the end of the bonus video. Spencer out.